Hello, friends. I want to start with one of my favorite stories and circle back around to working with kids with trauma histories who are on IEPs and restorative justice work. I'm going to sew all of these together. So one of my favorite stories. Had a student many years ago named Dennis who was funny, interested in the world, clever, smoked way too much marijuana, had very bad executive functioning skills, and was always coming late to school and late to classes. And we had a bottom line in the school that if you were late a certain amount of time, a certain number of days to a class, you could not get full credit for that class because you would have missed too much of the instructional time, too much of the general learning that happens by being in a classroom and being engaged. And so let's say you could be absent or late 10 times, and Dennis had logged 9 of them in, and we all knew one more late meant that he couldn't pass this course, which meant he would have to go to summer school and couldn't graduate with his class, which would have been a big disappointment. So it was the day of his next class, and I'm at the front porch of the school waiting for him to come, and I'm looking at the clock, and he's late, and I'm sighing, and I'm wondering what's going on with him. And here he comes down the street on his bicycle, pedaling wildly, and he gets to me, and he looks at me, and I point to the clock, and he says, "Oh, Jeffrey, it was headwinds." And it was, in different ways. Dennis had not the headwinds of getting late to school on his bicycle. That was the problem. It was that he came from a really dysfunctional family system. And we supported Dennis in so many ways. And we did the 3 major steps of resiliency, which was that we gave him challenges to do that were within his realm of abilities, such as showing up on time. We gave him robust, consistent, and predictable support. And we gave him opportunities to have voice and choice. And even with all that, he was unable to meet this particular standard. And what's good about restorative justice, I'm going to start tying this in, is that we didn't have an automatic, therefore you're out of the community, therefore you're not appreciated anymore. It was that, all right, how will you repair this for yourself? How will you be able to get to your next classes on time? And we continued working with him, and he went to summer school, and he did graduate. And one of the concerns I have in schools lately is this notion that kids who are in IEPs or kids with trauma histories are incapable of experiencing frustration and failure, that they cannot be held accountable to community standards because they have a disability, that they are that fragile that to be held to community standards would be problematic. And I think this is one of the difficulties and one of the bad legacies of special education, where I've spent a lot of my time, is that we look at kids who are on IEPs as if they are a collection of broken parts, a collection of disabilities, and we don't spend enough time focusing on their strengths and competencies. And we need to do that to retain their humanity, to not treat them as just broken parts. And one of the ways restorative justice and restorative discipline helps so much in our work with kids with trauma histories and IEPs is that we get to individualize the supports and responses when they can't reach a particular standard. There's not an automatic, or therefore 3 days of suspension, or therefore you must stay inside a week from recess. It's what will help this particular student in this particular time in their life learn and grow so that they can do better. And sometimes kids have to face failure, but if we surround them with love and support, give them voice, give them reasonable challenges, this is the growth all people have to do, all students have to do, and so that we can work with kids with trauma, with restorative discipline as our context within which we will help them be members of the community by holding on to community standards for them. Hope to see you down the road.